everyone, Otsukimi here. This is Casual Crypto and Coffee. I usually just go over the charts plainly in the morning, as it is morning here, while I'm just drinking a cup of coffee. And the idea is, I haven't really looked at these yet. A lot of Wednesday reactions to this. I have seen the dip for today already, but a lot of alt pairs especially I haven't seen. So we're going to kind of go over these, and so I'm going to be looking at these for the first time. The idea behind this is so that you get a natural more analysis from me. It's easy to record a video it's easy to record a video when I've already looked at the chart for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, even an hour, and then tell you like a 2-minute clip on it, right? It's much more difficult to look at the charts without even looking at them or knowing what's happened and give you like a 5-minute assessment on it. And so that's the idea. The idea is to give you a much more natural, much more fresh. Not that the other ones are not natural and fresh, but this is how I view them during the week. So sometimes that might get a reaction out of me that I wouldn't probably put on a video. And so, yeah, so it's going to be more casual style, more laid back, more just looking at the charts and seeing what's happened. And the idea is yeah, I haven't seen these. I haven't seen some of them. I've seen Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Binance. That's all I've seen today. And so we'll take a look at these and we'll look at them together. All right, so first things first, we're on Bitcoin. So I trade usually by the time I record these videos, the US Open has already opened, so to speak. So usually I got about 8 hours left. But we already have a reaction so far. We had a big, quote unquote, big down move, which is funny because it's still above yesterday. So for the past 3 days, we kind of got a lot of explaining to do. But the too long didn't watch is that we had this here was the down move from Binance. This here was the up move from Coinbase. So Bitcoin got sued by the SEC, led to a down move. Coinbase got sued by the SEC, went to a bounce. Now we have a bearish reaction. So we can interpret this a few ways. I see a lot of people already fearful and all that. Here's the way that I interpret this. And this isn't necessarily TA per se. Again, this is just more of a casual video explaining my thoughts. The thing is like we know, so for Binance, right, we had a big down reaction. Two things happened. One, that was the first of the series of SEC-based reactions, so it got the bearish reaction. And even though we've seen that before, people were kind of looking for an excuse for things to be bearish anyway. I've mentioned that before, that we needed to get a retest of 2,500, and we did get that, and that was kind of based off this reaction right here. When I see a rounded top like this with a bunch of wicks, I see that needing to be retested, especially when we had that touched and then we expanded above that. So when we get this rounded top with wicks and an expansion, I always think retest, and we did get it. So that's good. As long as it touches the outside bounds, that's perfectly fine. Legal to my assessment, whatever you want to call it. So that was the first thing. The second thing is, I think we can kind of perceive that even though Binance might be okay, or maybe they're elusive, we kind of know that they might. It wouldn't surprise us if they got in trouble for something wrong, right? So that's probably also why we got that reaction as well. So I think we can kind of deduce both of those things. A lot of times, this goes into other videos and rants I've had before, but when something occurs like this, typically the price action will work in tandem with things. Another thing is, I was looking at the 200 EMA. This also works. This also works on the weekly. And so this is a hot area that we need to be mindful of. So we are not going to break this area very easily. And I've been very vocal about the 200 EMA for quite some time. I bought down below here, but I told people if you did not buy anywhere in here, this was the time to buy at the cross. And so even if you bought here at the top, you still would be barely underwater still. And so And look, just as a side note, yes, 5-6%. It's okay to be underwater sometimes. Like I don't understand why it's such a big deal to be underwater. Maybe that'll be my rant for tomorrow. But I'll wait for that. So, actually, that's a good idea. I need to write that down. So, um, but the reaction also here is when we got two SEC uh, pieces of news in a row. I think we can all kind of see through it and see like what might actually be taking place. I don't know. I'm just speculating. I'm not here to criticize. I'm not here to really say any comment about any entity or trader per se. The thought process is like when things happen repetitively in a trading market, it tends to get it tends to have less effect, right? It's just like Elon. Some of you guys don't even remember this probably, but I remember clear as day. Like when Elon first said that he was going to buy Bitcoin for Tesla, like the market went up like 12%. Like, and over time, and especially with Dogecoin, we talk about Dogecoin, right? How many times did Dogecoin pump because of Elon? But it's pumped less over time, even though he still talks about it, because that's the network effect of talking about things too much. The more you talk about things, the more less effect it's going to be. Like unless you have a favorite movie, I say this because like Lord of the Rings and the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogies are like my favorite movies, pretty much. And so I've watched Lord of the Rings Extended Edition like 20 times. I'll watch it while I'm working sometimes, and it hasn't had a less effect necessarily, but other movies have. So this is something that I really, really, really like. Like, anyway, the example was I was gonna say, if you're watching a movie and you watch the same movie 10 times, you're not gonna care about it as much, right? So, anyway, that's kind of the thing, the angle that's going on here. So anyway, I focus on this too long, but the gist is here's our reaction today. This is our reaction so far, about 2.5%. We're actually going above here. I'm not convinced either way, to be honest with you. This is kind of one of these moments where you need to make a reaction down here versus up here. And so if you have not made a reaction, and that's okay, most people don't. I only did because I've had 4 years of analysis to prepare for this. I follow the charts every day. But your reaction was at the lows here. And so that's and that's honestly something I did based off of the 200 EMA. So that was one of the things. I saw the retest. I was focused on the retest. I saw this reaction here. Actually, it was kind of in between something. So I was like, well, I'll just go ahead. I want to do it. I'll just do it and then go on my way. It worked out for me. So I'm pretty comfy right now. Not as comfy as I'd like, but I'm still comfy with that. So anyway, we have this reaction for today. I mentioned on Twitter that we kind of had this area right here. This was an area of interest to me. We actually failed through it twice, so this isn't really valid anymore, unfortunately. This is kind of a mess of a zone, right? So you don't really have anything as far as like support. You had this zone right here that I mentioned that was broken through. In fact, now we're kind of getting a retest of the area. So, but this has been broken so many times, it doesn't really matter, honestly. So when you get something like this, you want to kind of do this as a whole, honestly. And that sucks because you lose a lot of information and what you want to do and how you want to trade on the 1 hour. But the best thing is honestly just not to trade. Now, I say that all right now because I don't necessarily think this is a worthy time to trade. When I mentioned that yesterday is a good buying opportunity, I said that as a long-term perspective person. I've been very vocal about that, so I want to mention that. So we have this right here. As far as this 4 hour, it's still a lot of mess, right? I honestly would still focus on higher time frames. Let's turn on some of this stuff here, because you're going to get kind of chopped out with this. So there's no R side divergence or something like that. Got a failure here. I would personally keep aside for now. Other alts might show something a little bit different. I'm gonna keep that off for today, actually. and then we'll kind of go into it because I think there are some divergences, and we'll just keep going with this. All right, so we'll go to Ethereum, and got a little bit of a weaker reaction than yesterday. Sorry that Bitcoin took so long, but I had to explain all the SEC stuff so we can have that contextualized for these alts, right? So had a reaction, didn't have as high as reaction. I don't think that's really a big deal. We don't need to micro assess that every time. So, but we still, I like Ethereum because it held these lows, right? I'm much more bullish on Ethereum long term, and this is one reason why. It was one of the few that actually held its region, and so that's good. I didn't buy Ethereum actually, but I think it's worth mentioning. So you have this zone right here. If we can break this red zone, I like this a lot. And again, I'm focusing more on daily time frames because the low time frame, when you have a big reaction like these SEC moments, it tends to be just a very bad idea to trade low time frames. And so I tend to stay away from them for about 2 days, and then you can kind of see, how to assess that. Otherwise, things look pretty nasty, right? So actually, this looks pretty clean. Kind of got this fade, the sickle fade, and we kind of got like a divergence here as well. So that's something to keep in mind. I don't know if this is tradable. Usually it's no signal on this area, so I would not trade this personally. So that's kind of how I view that. I see from this trend line strong reaction. I mean, we had a triple top, we had rejection again, but you can see here we don't have the rejections that we would have on other coins. This looks to me that it's trying to go up. A lot of people think this is going to go up because ETH burns coins now. I don't necessarily think that's the case. I don't. I've seen so many, and the reason being is I've seen so many coins have burning as part of their function, and they burn to death, so to speak. Like they're not. Those coins don't exist really. So, to me, that's not a good tokenomics strategy. But whatever. It is what it is. So, with all that, this is what I'm looking at. I'm looking at a reaction here. This isn't necessarily a descending triangle. They don't tend to happen as often as you think. This is getting a lot of pressure here, so I would look for a reaction here. In fact, I'm probably going to even just set the alert for it. So we'll do that. So I kind of see, if you didn't know you could do that, it's more you know. So that's what I'm looking at for Ethereum. All right. Let's go ahead and I'll go to Binance because we had a big reaction here, much more than others. And see, this is kind of like the effect of the SEC, because we're going to look at this, and then we're going to look at Coinbase next, the actual stock coin. So I made the assessment here on Observations with Otsu on Monday. If you haven't seen it, it's worth checking out. But we had this reaction down here, had a little consolidation for yesterday, very minor compared to other like 1.2% versus the 5 to 7% that some coins had, and then we had the reaction down here again. I still think we're going to go lower on this. We don't want to go too much lower on this because this is going to be very dangerous for Binance Chain token coins. And so I'm personally not a big fan of BSC coins. I don't think it's a good ecosystem to market a project on right now. I don't think it ever really was. I think most people did it because it was cheaper. Ethereum is really the way to go, and Ethereum has its own problems. Every ecosystem has its own pros and cons, but I do think Binance was a little too immature to launch a full ecosystem and just let everybody do it. So this is what I see on the weekly. I want to touch this very briefly because if we go below here, now we're approaching the 200 mark, close to this. And after that, the only support after that is $47. So I want that to keep in mind. I am not a fan of Binance. I have not traded Binance. I have not held Binance for quite some time. I really haven't. And I don't remember when. Not here to kind of brag anyway. So my thing is I do have some hesitancies towards the Binance chain and the ecosystem because of this. This is a weird consolidation point for this time of the market. It didn't really get the drop down. You know, its low was in June, where other people's lows were right here. So, and that's another thing to keep in mind. We have kind of a line formation here. So this is probably the line in the sand, so to speak, no pun intended, is about 260. If we lose the 260, we're probably going to go straight to 245. So we will see. We'll see. But there's no room for failure at this point all the way until 47. So I would stay cautious in my opinion. I'll be completely honest, I don't like the chain. I don't like the chain. All the projects on there are basically crap, or the only good ones are ones that started on other chains anyway. And you can see the development. There's obviously ETH is still the power chain, right? And then you have Polygon doing. Matic is doing really good. I would say Matic is probably going to be the next Ethereum, so to speak. They have good partnerships. I've worked with clients that and projects that are launching on Matic. Sol's probably going to make it as well. AVAX, I'm kind of on the fence with it. Sometimes they surprise me. Sometimes I'm like, well, figures. I'm 50-50 on them. I'm kind of leaning towards that they won't be successful, but I would like them to, because I know a lot of good projects on there. That's one reason why. But also, they have a good structure, but they just don't have that extra energy or, you know, special sauce, I guess, to be successful. Solana, I think, will be successful. I think it will take a little bit to get them going, but I think they're going to be the sleeper coin. But then you got Arbitrum and OP. Like those coins are technically ETH coins, and they're doing better than Binance chain, and that should tell you all you need to know about Binance chain. And it's one of those things too. Like Binance is a well-structured brand, right? So like, I was talking to a client. I was talking to a client yesterday or a couple days ago. This week, where they have they have rough links, and but one they don't share. One they rarely share is Binance, and their reasoning was, well, everybody has Binance, and well, I can understand that. I still think you should share your rough link if you need to. It's a good way to support any brand here. It's a good free way to show your support to anybody. But yeah, and I'll have a BingX ref link myself. So, but it's one thing. But there is some truth to that, right? Like everybody has it, so why would they sign up again? You know, unless they're doing it some special way, right? So that's kind of how that stands, right? So as far as this, I digress from all that. I'm losing my train of thought. This is, you want this to hold. If you're a Binance person, you want this to hold. And I'm not talking bad about Binance necessarily. I'm just speaking my mind, right? If you don't like it, I apologize, but that's kind of what I see in the market. This is your reaction that you want to see. It's clear on the was it daily? Yeah, daily. So I would look for a reaction here to bounce. I might even long it, but so we'll see how that goes. Market's pretty sporadic right now. This is why I would just kind of stay on the sideline. There's no, Binance. There's no way to grab this, right? Or Bitcoin. There's no way to grab this. Honestly, it's just best to sit out for today. Let's go ahead and go to Solana, and we'll kind of cover this. And I think I'll cover about 3 to 5 more after this. Video's kind of getting longer than I want, but we'll keep it going. Maybe I can do kind of a chart request next time and see, because there's a lot of coins, but there's also a lot of red. So you're gonna have similar responses, right? So daily, I had this wedge point out. I had a long here, I think. Where is it at? Why does it keep coming up? I hate that. Yeah, I had a long here, I think, and it got stopped out, so it sucks, but it's part of it. I do plan on making a video about some mistakes as well. So Had the wedge, get rid of that. But now we're kind of hovering these lows. I do like that. So when you have a structure like this, you have a series of lows, and then you kind of had a reclaim. So I view this as kind of a reclaim because, not because of this, but because of this. So this structure is how I would look for the rest of this price action, and it seems to go pretty well. However, we are hovering at the lows. The RSI has been broken. We have a full bearish wedge forming at a very high rate here, so I can see this going down more. I don't really have a lot of hope in the structure to bounce here, mainly because of the strong reactions. This is telling me that this is a weaker area. I still think this is not worth shorting because this has not flipped yet. And for my rules, if something, I wait for something to occur. I don't say like, well, this looks weak, I'm going to short it, because that's exactly where it's going to bounce. And if it bounces, then I have the worst, literally the worst entry, right? I wait for a reaction, and that's what you should do. You know, and I said this in a tweet today. Don't trade with your eyes. You know, it's the worst thing that you can do. So what I would do is I would wait for a failure of this, and then have my entry here at the lows or even lower. And so I have a clear invalidation point like right here. And so where would my target be? It actually wouldn't be here. It would be here because we have a bullish, or we had a bullish engulfing. So this structure needs to be retested. So you could point it there. If you want to do a more conservative method, you could focus on these wicks instead. And so this is where I would land, somewhere between 1.52 or down here at 2.2. So that's kind of how I would view that. And this makes more sense contextually now. You had a series of retests, a down move, breakout. So this makes more sense. This is almost like a gap or a void that needs to be revisited. And so that both of these would qualify. So that's kind of how I would view that. So other than that, there's not much to view on Solana. It seems to kind of it seems to be very clear on that. We did have a div, but that actually failed just recently. So there's nothing much to trade on that. Again, this makes me think that we should just kind of stay sidelined for now. And even I even said this today. Like, even if a trade might look good, it doesn't mean it's tradable. So would I have loved to get 3% on a short today? Absolutely. And I've lost 3% from yesterday on my position that I posted yesterday. I mean, I'm not down 3% overall. But the point is that happens. It happens. You got to get used to having fluctuations. It really bothers me to no end when I see people freaking out over 2% moves. It happens every day, up and down. You're going to be more at peace. That's why moving averages exist. Moving averages exist because it's a fluctuation of data over time. And over time, you see this data going up. Despite the fact that this is going down, the price action is, the candle moving averages are still going up. So that's the thing. Even when this went down to here, the averages are still going up. So I don't really see the point here. If you would have bought down here, you're still in profit. So yes, you want to get out and take profit and things like that, blah, blah, blah. It depends on the trade, right? So if you got in here and you're wanting to hold for a whole year, of course you're going to stay. If you got in here and you want to take profit now, well, you probably should have got out somewhere around here anyway. So that's how it is. That was actually for Solana, but Solana's a little more cut and dry, getting a much more down move. I'll probably cover about 3 more, and then yeah, we'll see. We'll just see how everything goes. So let's go ahead and look at a few more. Actually, I forgot to look at Coinbase, so we're gonna check this out as well. So kind of had a small day today. We had that big reaction from yesterday, but we also have that big gap. So we're kind of, for better or worse, kind of stuck with this gap zone. Honestly, it's one of those things. You play the break of this, that determines probably the outset of a long or short. is just as simple as that, in my opinion. I don't think I would complicate that I mean, I wouldn't make it more complicated. Again, this goes back to what I said, like, don't complicate things if you don't have to. And this is a good way to do it. You look at zones, you wait till there's a reaction outside of that zone, and then you play the outside of that zone. It's pretty simple, right? You wouldn't, so if you're playing baseball, you wouldn't run from first base to second base unless you knew that you had a shot to get there. So that's basically it. But this is all a precursor, and after this here is a precursor, sorry. I like this setup a lot. You had a big consolidation, you had the down move, breakdown, reclaim, and even with the SEC thing, it's holding strong. I think this is a good long-term play, in my opinion. So I like this price point here at $53. I think anything above $50 is pretty good for now. We have a high bullish consolidation, so that usually will consolidate up and go upwards. Sorry, I had something in my mouth. So I can see ourselves getting to the high 80 range, probably within a month or two. I don't know. That's more of a guess, but the point is, I like this. I like the reaction of this would be a good way to determine if you want a long or short for the next quarter. So that's coin. And a lot of these are pretty very similar. Like Dogecoin, we had the breakdown, the daily, didn't even get that reaction that I wanted. So some of these didn't have a strong move, right? And this is one that Elon even talked about, and that's kind of what I was saying earlier in the video. Didn't have the reaction. That was basically just a bullish retest or a bearish retest, and now we got that retest. Very strong reaction, not something I want to trade right now. Matic is the same way. We had that very strong. It didn't even get a reaction from yesterday, in fact. So this is not looking good as well. This has a excuse me, got something in my throat. This looks possible that this could bounce. Could even wait till maybe here. If you want to be a little more conservative and safer with that, that's kind of how I would view that. But this down move, the past three, it didn't even get a bullish bounce, so that's not typically a good sign. And one thing you notice is that it had a good reaction from previous months, and so now these things are fading because. Same with Binance. That's one reason it is fading. It is also because they're delisting some coins. I found that out recently that their Binance US is delisting some coins and stopping OTC trading. So that's another reason for that. So, but a lot of these are not getting the follow through that I would like to see. I am still bullish on Bitcoin, Ethereum, but other coins you might get a good discount. This one was really terrible. I wanted to see this succeed so bad. I did not enter this position, actually. I'm not sure what this even is. We'll just get rid of it. I think that was my confirmation to what is it doing there? Can I get rid of this? There we go. Maybe I don't know what's going on with there. So I actually wanted to enter this, and as you can see, like it closed just below my entry. And then we had the strong reaction. And I'm like, well, I'm not doing that. I thought about getting in on the bounce. I didn't, and I'm glad I did not. So this is very unsettling because this is a really good wedge that Adam would have been really good with, but that's a failure. And I mentioned that in a video, I think Monday. When you have a trend like this and it breaks down, that's a very bad sign. It's a very bad sign that we will probably hit this area. And so and possibly even here. So this is actually very similar to Binance. And Atom's one of those coins where I would have liked to see it succeed, but I don't think it will. I don't think the ecosystem is quite mature yet, but maybe it will towards the end of the cycle. So similar reaction here. A lot of these alts are not looking very good at all. I think you could be able to get a good discount. SHIB, very similar. Dot had the reaction retest. So some of these, even if the bullish response is a bearish retest. So near things like that. Algo was one that I was looking at. I did not enter this personally, but had a really bad time with that. So I'm a big fan of S and X, and it's kind of just big wad of mess right now. So see a lot of these. Again, this was one that I really liked. Had the deviation, and so here's a good example, because we had this. So what I saw at the time was this. Said, okay, we broke this trend line. That is a long, and I actually did not long it. I should have. I honestly should have, but I did not. And I'm in this way. I'm glad I didn't long, because of what I know now. But if I would have a chance, I probably would still long it again. You can't second guess yourself when you have these opportunities, right? So what I should have done instead was I should have longed here and waited for a reaction like right here. And so had something like this, right? And then let it play out. And then does it go up, does it go down? I eventually obviously would have been stopped out. And we'll just kind of wait for it a little bit to go. But you can see it kind of going up and down the side. There it goes. It got stopped out. And so that's where I would have closed the position. And so, yes, I would have lost money on that. I would have. And if I had a chance to do it again, I probably would trade it. So I don't want to second guess myself. What is it? I don't know why that's showing up. That's a really annoying it's a really annoying thing. I've never seen that. I've never seen it, the graphics that way before. So anyway, we had the deviation. Now, when you have a deviation, that is a good sign that you should short instead. So we'll see how that plays out. There's a lot to be said here. I don't like this setup anymore, and that's a shame, because this was a good this had a lot of good potential. And I can go over some like Aave in another video, where this is one that I did get stopped out on. It happens. So, and I can explain why maybe another video. So, things like that. So anyway, that's probably going to be the video. We have a lot of AI coins as well, but most of them did, again, very similar reactions. So I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know what you think. Like, subscribe, comment, whatever you want to do. Sign up for a ref link if you like. If not, that's okay. Appreciate you listening. Have a great day.